We are going to move in now to a bit of a Q&A session, and then there'll be a comfort break before we move into the breakout sessions. So I think, let me just sort out because there's so many people in this, if people can put their hand up when they've got questions for any of our speakers, I'll have a look at that. And I think we'll pull out some of the questions that have been in the chat as well too. So Kirsty Cameron, you've got your hand up, I think, have you?
Yeah, I do. I actually have, if it's all right, 2 questions for Colin. I just wondered, first of all, when you talked about the qualitative outcomes, if they were reported by the young people or by the services or by both. And the second question was about, I just wondered what your approach was going to be to how you'll either measure or record or capture the impacts on a more ongoing long-term basis.
Okay, Kirsty, so I think I can answer both parts of that. The first part would be when you're talking about the voice of young people in terms of the qualitative outcomes in particular. So yes, absolutely, young people are a big part of the evaluation process, which involves multi-agency discussions and group setting discussions, as well as the old school questionnaire survey type approach, to get the views of everyone involved in this process, because it was fundamental. This was by no means just about police, this was about all the partners concerned, and it was critical we got that, but the vital voice in it all is that of the young people. And in terms of the going longer term, to look at how we support delivering it, it's going to be a challenge, I think, as we need to work our way through the various policies that come on board. But maybe just, could you maybe remind us, Kirsty, the second part of your question, because I'm waffling.
I was just interested in how you would approach trying to measure or capture, because it might not necessarily be sort of the quantitative measure, it might be more the qualitative measures, but how you would capture that on a longer term basis, you know, to make sure that the impact continues over time.
Yeah, got you now, Kirsty. I should have written that down. So I think what's really important is that this is about management of risk in the first instance, that we're looking after vulnerable young people. So there are processes built in the short term to make sure we're protecting that. Longer term though, like as I'm sure most folk will advise, in terms of a trauma-based approach, we may not see the benefits of this for 5 to 10 years at least. And I think that's a fundamental part of what we probably have to appreciate and accept. However, if we can see the differences in young people in the short term, then that's positive for our project. But actually achieving the outcome and having to be able to give a rubber stamp that says this absolutely worked, we won't know for a generation. However, it's clearly something we're going to be carefully monitoring and looking after the young people as we make our way through things.
Thank you. Thanks for that question, Kirsty and Colin, for your response. I'm not seeing any hands up. You'll need to press the wee hands up function on the. We've got so many participants that I will only be able to see if you've got your physical hand up, as some people sometimes try to do. But if you can press the wee hands up or type into the chat if there's any questions. And we can maybe start going, because I did see, Shamila, you've got a question?
Yeah, I put it into
the chat.
Happy for you to just read that out if you want, and then whoever wants to answer. Right,
let me just check I've got the right one, but chip in if I've no. So this is the one where you were saying all the presentations have been really great from organisational research, staff development and skills perspective. Have I got the right one? However, it'd be really great to have heard the voice of lived experience today and heard first-hand impact that some of these services may have had in someone's life. And you're asking about the way the event was constructed. So perhaps some of the event organisers can maybe pick up on that one.
Yeah, sure, I can come in, Shamila. Yeah, I think that's totally a fair point. I know this is a series of deep dives, so obviously we've been trying to incorporate lived experience as much as possible across the series where it's been safe and appropriate to do so. But obviously we're looking to kind of showcase and shine a light on lived experience as much as possible. So I totally think we could do more, in particularly in the justice one as well. So no, I really appreciate that comment, and I think it's something we'll take forward as well. But thank you. I hope that is okay, Shamila.
Of course it is. Yeah, I just wanted to ask the question. It would have really just made the day so much richer to have heard a story from someone, or an experience of how some of these services have actually made an impact in their lives.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I can see there's another question come into the chat. I've not got anybody with their hands up, but Colin, there's somebody asking a question around GDPR and information sharing. Do you want to take that one, and then I'll look at some of the previous ones as well?
Yeah, no problem, Kate. Thanks for that. If I tried to cover GDPR, though, there would have been about 3 hours and 10 minutes trying to cover that this morning. But essentially, to answer that specific question, that is dealt with through existing information sharing agreements, but also by a memorandum of understanding that was signed up to by all the key partners, which facilitated the information sharing. We weren't sharing information beyond that we would normally do in any case. However, we put in place processes just to keep everyone comfortable, because clearly that's a concern, and what we don't want is someone not sharing information out of a false fear, which was really important for us to do. Kate, just in addition to that, the one thing I should have mentioned in my input was that as we develop things through from here, we're absolutely looking to be making full use of the NES products and suite of products that are now online for the trauma approach, and they weren't available before now, but absolutely will be. That'll be our basis going forward. We're working closely with Caroline and her team to develop further materials, so it's exciting times ahead in that front. But hopefully that clarifies that and answers Catherine's question as well.
Great, yeah. Well, I'm waiting to see if more people want to put their hands up. I've got one other point that I picked up in the chat. Dave, this was one for you about refresher training for LSCMI. I just wondered if you had picked that one up in the comments.
Yeah, I saw that one going through. To be perfectly blunt, pretty much most of the training that we've delivered pre-COVID has been put on hold while we transfer it into online delivery. So at the moment, the team that we've got just now are spending pretty much 100% of their time actually creating products that are suitable for delivery remotely. This will lead to a point where it will actually be easier to chunk up learning content for LSCMI Refresher, and that should allow us to sort of tailor it and make it more bespoke for different local areas, simply because at the moment we are having to break it up into manageable chunks. So if, and here's hoping, fingers crossed, we move into a more relaxed world where we can return to face-to-face training, there will still be a blended element to it. So it just, although at the moment there is nothing in the pipeline for LSCMI Refresher, just because we don't have the resources for it, it will actually make it easier once we have a full online product to build something bespoke for individual areas depending on their needs. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you. I can see I'm trying to manage time here in terms of comfort break, then breakout sessions as well. I can see that, Catherine, you've got your hand up, and I do want to get back to a couple of points that have been raised in the chat as well.
Yeah, no, I had the joys of working at home. I had to step away when Colin was obviously discussing some of his, but when I did step back in, I noticed that Pilot was kind of discussing about young people, and I thought it was pointing more towards people within residential care. Was that right? And I'm just, obviously the agency that I work for, we work with a local authority just now, and it's trying to move away from probably residential care and trying to keep children at home with families or within kinship placements or living independently once they're over the age of 16. And obviously they can be quite criminalised, especially once they're, with antisocial behaviour or offending. So it's just how that pilot might incorporate some of that different sort of care settings instead of just residential placements.
Catherine, just to answer your question, was it aimed at residential care? Yes, it was and currently is. Will that develop? I certainly hope so, and we know that's a big part of the Promises objective, is to be keeping families together, etc. So there will be a need. I clearly want to look into other areas where there are opportunities for us to support care experienced people and young people. So yes, hopefully we'll be able to make it wider. However, it's about also managing risk and also being able to provide staff with comfort. And clearly, if you're starting to talk about foster carers or respite carers, that's a whole different area, which we would have to look very carefully about the training to support these staff. But yes, hopefully we'll go beyond the residential element.
Thanks, Colin. We're going to move on now to a break.